Welcome to the deep dive. We're hitting the road today. Buckle up. We're going on a road trip to the dark side of Piv stops. You guys sent us some seriously creepy stories about encounters on the road, and tonight we're going to unpack 3 of them. We'll dive into what happened.
And the psychology of those like heart-stopping moments.
Yeah.
You know, when your heart just...
It's so interesting, right? Because these stories, they expose a vulnerability we often forget about. You know, being alone, far from help, strangers everywhere. It reminds us that ordinary places, even just a gas station, can become scary when we feel vulnerable.
Yeah, like just the setting of a road trip.
Right.
Open highway, unfamiliar towns, deserted rest stops. I feel like it just like amps up the creep factor. You just never know what's lurking around the corner. Tonight, we've got a story about a late-night gas station that goes from weird to terrifying. Another one about helping someone in the middle of nowhere and that goes wrong. And then that, not one, but 2 seriously creepy encounters at a rest stop. And they all touch on that like tension between being helpful and staying safe, a tough choice when you're in the moment. And these stories really show us how hard it is to navigate that.
Okay, so let's just dive in to our first story. A listener wrote to us. She was driving home from an overnight shift at an urgent care place in Western Massachusetts. It was 4 a.m. She was exhausted, just wanted to go home and eat her takeout. But as she's filling up at a deserted Shell station, a guy in a blue sedan pulls up next to her and asks if she wants to see a funny trick.
Already, right? We see the isolation late at night, gas stations deserted. Those things can make us feel more vulnerable to begin with.
Sure. And this guy asks for her attention, even if it seems harmless. It just puts her on edge. She tries to be polite, so she humors him, asks him,
Okay.
what's the trick? And get this. He does that thing where you like pretend to pull your finger off.
Seems innocent enough, but it makes you wonder
Right.
about the motivation. Why would you do that? Is he just trying to connect, or is it something more? Is he trying to like
Unsettle her, or maybe.
assert dominance?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, why else would you do that? Approach a stranger at 4 a.m. with a finger trick. So she tries to brush him off, but he keeps doing it over and over, staring at her with this weird smile. Major red flags. She finally finishes filling her tank, rushes inside to pay, and gets out of there. When she comes back out, he's gone. But his car's still there, pump's still running. She drives home, totally creeped out.
Even though nothing really happened,
Right.
her instinct is telling her something's wrong. And that feeling of unease is important. It's our internal alarm system saying, hey, pay attention.
Yeah, okay. This is where it gets scary. She gets home, unlocks her front door, goes straight to the kitchen to finally eat. But then she hears the front door open and close. She calls out for her parents. Nothing. She runs upstairs to check on them, and thankfully, they're both asleep.
Oh my God, imagine that fear. You're in your own home. It's supposed to be safe. And suddenly, that feeling of security is just shattered.
Totally.
Yeah.
So they realize the spare key they kept hidden outside is missing. And they start frantically searching the house. Her dad goes to the basement. She's on the main floor, heart pounding. She decides to check the dining room. And then she peers under the table. Guess who she finds?
No way. The finger trick guy.
The finger trick guy from the gas station.
Worst fear.
Right.
Eh.
You're home. It's supposed to be a sanctuary. But this story shows us that we're not always as protected as we think.
I know, it's terrifying. So she screams, her mom screams, her dad comes charging up the stairs, ready to fight. They all start attacking the guy. And he finally runs out the front door. They call the police. But he's long gone. And get this. This is the part that really freaks me out. She didn't see any cars behind her on the drive. Oh, so could he have followed her with his headlights off? That's so scary. And it really highlights how important it is to be aware of our surroundings. Even on those drives we take every day, we tend to relax when we're in familiar places. But this story, it's a reminder to stay vigilant.
Absolutely. This whole thing.
Yeah.
This made me think twice about stopping at gas stations late at night.
Yeah.
Now I'm curious, what's the biggest takeaway
Okay.
for you from this story?
For me, it's the reminder that our homes, the places we consider safe, can be violated. It makes you think about your security and the little things that can make you more vulnerable. Even something seemingly harmless, like someone asking to show you a trick. It really makes you think about protecting yourself at home too, not just when you're out. Like layers of protection, inside and outside.
Exactly. So our second story tonight takes us to a Wendy's in the middle of nowhere where someone's trying to be nice turns into something terrifying. Our listener, she was on a road trip by herself, driving from New York all the way to Florida. And around 4 a.m., you know how it is, road trip hunger. She sees a Wendy sign off I-95, but when she gets there, it's closed. So she's sitting in the drive-thru, trying to figure out what to do, when she gets a knock on her window.
Oh man, the setting, it's already creepy. Dark, isolated, unexpected knock. It just primes you for something bad to happen.
I know, right. And there's a guy standing outside her car, smiling. He tells her his car battery is dead and asks if she can jumpstart it. Now, this listener, she's a kind person. So she says yes. She even said in her story that she felt like it would be bad karma. She didn't help.
Yeah, I get that. We all want to help. Right, be a good person. But it's so important to remember safety first, always.
Always. So they park their cars hood to hood. And she gets out to connect the jumper cables. Starts her car. They wait a bit. And then he tries to start his. Nothing. They try again. Still nothing. It's already starting to feel weird. Like maybe something's not right.
Yeah, like his car just died, but the jump start isn't working. That's a red flag. Just
doesn't add up.
Right.
And then things get worse. The guy walks off and makes a phone call, talking in Spanish. She doesn't understand what he's saying, but she has a bad feeling. He comes back and tells her, his friend said, to wait a few more minutes before trying again. But then, before they can even try, 2 pickup trucks come speeding into the parking lot, one from each side of the building. Her car is trapped.
Oh, wow. Now she's trapped. No way out. That's terrifying.
It was. She knows. Right away. It was a setup. She looked at the guy, and a smile is gone. Now it's just sinister, menacing. She locks her doors, and in a split second, she decides she has to get out of there. So she runs into the woods, in the pitch black, tripping over God knows what. She can hear the men yelling somewhere in the woods, getting closer. She hunkers down, tries to disappear. Can you imagine?
That's like pure instinct taking over.
Right.
Fight or flight, and in that moment, running was the safest thing to do.
It was. And she got away. But then she hears it, her car alarm going off in the distance.
Oh no, she's safe. But now her car, just another wave of fear.
Right. She carefully makes her way back to the parking lot, and her car is the only one left. Back window smashed, and everything inside gone. They took everything. She calls the police. But they don't give her much hope. The guy's car had fake plates. The trucks, no plates at all.
That's awful, this story. Really makes you think about trusting your gut. If something feels wrong, it probably is. It's okay to say no, even if it seems rude, or you might inconvenience someone.
You're right. It's so unsettling, this story. Makes you wonder, how many other people have been tricked like this? A good reminder that even trying to help can have bad consequences. Before we get to our last story, what do you think? What's the most important lesson here?
I think it's this. Have a plan. Not just for if your car breaks down, but a plan for everything. How to assess risk, how to trust your gut, how to get out of a bad situation.
That's great advice. Having a plan helps you feel in control, even when the unexpected happens. Ready for those rest stop stories?
Oh yeah, hit me with those rest stop stories. You know, that feeling we talked about, feeling vulnerable. It's like worse at rest stops, especially at night. They're so isolated, you never know.
Right, and this listener's story really captures that. She was driving, like a 15-hour road trip, driving through the night, and she had to pee. So she finds this rest stop, small, just a bathroom, and one other car in the parking lot. Walking towards the bathroom, she notices the other car has tinted windows, can't see inside. Just a thought.
Right. All right.
But then she gets inside the bathroom. Things get weird.
The curiosity. You know, who's in there with you? We all feel that at rest stops. It's normal to feel on edge when you're alone.
Right.
I get that.
Totally. So she goes into the bathroom and sees a man standing in the corner, facing the wall, not using the urinal, not washing his hand, just standing there, staring at the corner. Creepy.
Yeah, our brain's trying to understand weird behavior.
Yeah.
We want to believe there's a reason, but sometimes that gut feeling is telling you something.
Yeah. She hesitates, almost asks if he's okay, but decides to just ignore him. He goes to a stall, but it's so quiet, and she feels more and more uneasy. She can't even relax. To go to the bathroom, she ends up just flushing and leaving the stall. And now the man has turned around and is staring right at her.
Oh God, he changes from like not noticing her to staring. That's unsettling. It's like, now he's aware of her.
Yeah.
And it feels threatening.
Super creepy. She doesn't say anything, just turns and runs out. As she's driving away, she sees him walking towards her car. In her rear view mirror, she speeds off, so glad to get away from him.
Being followed even for a second is terrifying. It's like, That vulnerable feeling just amplified.
I know, but wait, there's more. She still had to pee, luckily. About 20 minutes later, she finds another rest stop. This one's empty. She pulls up right in front of the bathroom and hurries inside. Finally, relief. But as she's in the stall, she hears footsteps coming straight towards her stall. And then they stop right outside.
Oh no, that trapped feeling. Someone's listening just outside. That's
A nightmare it is. She peeks under the door and sees shoes right there. She's so anxious. She can't even speak. Finally, she manages to say, "Someone's in here," but nothing. Silence.
The silence, like a way to control you, intimidate you.
Right, she starts to panic. So she does something really smart. She dials 911, puts it on speaker. The operator answers, "911, what's your emergency?" And she says, loud and clear, "I'm being followed by a dangerous man. I feel threatened."
Wow, that's so smart. Calling for help. Saying it out loud, she takes control and lets the guy know he's not alone. Someone knows what's happening.
It was, and it worked. As she's telling the operator where she is, the person outside walks away. She stays in the stall until the police get there, not taking any chances. A few minutes later, a knock. It's a police officer, she tells him, about the guy from the other rest stop. Yeah, what just happened? They check her car, it's fine. The officer walks her out, and she can finally continue her trip.
That must have been such a relief. The police, it reminds you to use those resources. Don't be afraid to call for help.
Totally. She finished her trip, no more problems. But that night definitely stayed with her. And you know what's interesting? This listener was a man. We hear these stories a lot from women, but anyone can be a target. It's important to remember that.
So true. Personal safety, it's not just a woman's issue. We all need to be aware and take steps to protect ourselves no matter who we are.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So 3 chilling stories about the dark side of road trips. What do you think? What connects these stories? What should our listeners take away from this?
Well, they all show how important it is to trust your gut. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Get out of there, even if you seem rude or you think you're being inconvenient.
Right. Safety first. What else?
And also, these things, they happen out of nowhere. You're just living your life, getting gas, going to the bathroom, and then suddenly things get dangerous. It reminds us to be ready for anything. Have a plan for those moments.
Absolutely. We can't predict everything, but we can be prepared. Learn how to handle tough situations. So, last question for you and for our listeners. How do these stories change how you think about safety on the road? What will you do to feel safer on your next road trip?
Something to think about. And remember, talking about it, sharing these stories helps us all feel more prepared and less alone.
That's the truth. We're all in this together. So, to our amazing listeners, thanks for sharing your stories
and joining us on this deep dive into the dark side of road trips. Stay safe out there. And remember, trust your gut, be aware, and never forget the power of a 911 call.